Okay. Happy Friday, I
Happy
think.
Friday.
Well, I mean, I know that it's Friday, but we're doing a slightly early edition of Cocktails and Conversation. I'm Heather Holdridge,
And I'm Larry Huynh.
and we are kind of both bootstrapping this Friday. So we don't have like a shared, we usually have a shared cocktail experience.
Yeah.
It's part
Too
of the whole
hard to
deal,
do.
but that's not happening today because Larry's on the road. I'm on the go myself.
Yeah, so I just grabbed whiskey off the shelf here. It's Tin Cup American whiskey. I don't know. Pretty good. Not bad.
Like,
I
are we on
assume,
like an Airbnb or something? Like, what does that even mean?
yeah, we are. But like, people brought booze, so I don't know where this is from. It has Rocky Mountain, so Rocky Mountain something. Maybe Colorado. Yeah, Colorado.
Yeah, they have like a distillery situation and scene there. Well, I am drinking a classic Campari and soda, very light, just like nice and refreshing. Not a lot, not high
Summary.
summery, not a high alcohol content because I have a big dinner situation, which I will not get into here because there's so much to talk about and not a lot of time to do it. We can't not talk about Jeffrey Epstein because so much has happened. I feel like it was like a week ago when the journal story came out and stuff really started. The first journal story
Yes.
that said with the birthday card. A week later,
What? By the way, that feels like 2 months ago.
100%, 100%. But a week later, we are in totally different uncharted territory. Shockingly, the House Republicans in a subcommittee, 8-2, so it wasn't a party line vote.
No.
The Republicans control the House. A subcommittee voted to subpoena Ghislaine Maxwell, who of course was Epstein's, co-conspirator. She was convicted and is serving a 20-year prison sentence now for helping him sex traffic underage girls for decades. So they subpoenaed her. Then Mike Johnson, because he did not want to force a floor vote that they would have lost if you're on Trump's side of this. So they adjourned for the rest of the summer.
Like they panic closed. It's it's like we got to get out of here. And you put the close sign up and you close the door and you lock the doors and you leave.
Then it came out that a week ago, Trump was like, oh, I never had a conversation with Bondi about what was in the files. Then it turns out that, oh, oopsie.
May.
That happened in May.
Yes.
Right?
And revealed that he was in the file, which, by the way, duh, of course. Right? Why wouldn't he be? I don't so that's the point. Like, that is not a surprise.
Correct.
That there are photos of them together, hanging out, smiling, arms around each other. So it's not like this is a surprise. So what was the deal?
Well,
right?
that's suspicious.
Right?
Right? It's like, of course you knew him. You said a long time ago, before any of this was resurfacing, before Ghislaine Maxwell was even, I think, arrested, before he was arrested the second time where he died suspiciously in jail, right?
God.
He was like, oh yeah, we had a falling out. And it was just like,
fine.
Allegedly it was a real estate deal. No one's ever contradicted that. So it's like, yeah, of course I knew him.
Yeah.
And of course I'm going to be in the files because the files are like everything and
everything he's ever done.
Yeah. But the fact that he's so defensive about it is why people kind of have their dander up. And now, why is
not just us, right?
Well, why are the number 2 guys? Right. It's the MAGA because he ran on it.
Right.
Because it was about taking down the elites.
Right. Deep state.
The way in which they operate with no accountability and do whatever they want. And it's amoral and immoral.
Right.
And people, he said he was the outsider who was going to take all of them down.
Except he's the ultimate insider, right?
That's
right. That's the whole big thing about it. But I agree with them, right? The whole system is kind of effed. A lot of these folks, I am very much on the record many, many times saying, like, take them all down. I don't care. Like, let's go.
100%.
I am all in on this. And if that means, and we've talked about this many, many times, this world will create weird alliances. And right now, I am aligned with the crazy conspiracy theorists on Reddit, MAGA, 4chan, all that stuff, because I'm just like, yeah, I agree. Let's go. I don't care. I don't have anything to
But the
hide.
other thing is, like, Pam Bondi, one way or the other, either lied about hyping what's in there, or she is protecting him. Either way, they are playing their own base
Right.
for suckers.
But what's so confusing to me is like, this seems like, and I don't want to disappoint the folks who want the most salacious of things about Trump to come out there, because that would be exciting and fun and whatever, and he's gross. But if she wouldn't be hyping if there was like, that's what's confusing. I'm so confused by this, because if you're Pam Bondi, like, why are you hyping it if it's gonna make Trump look bad? So it's just like, none of this makes sense.
Right.
None of it makes sense.
Well, but now what's happening, which I think is it's literally concerning, is you have the number 3 guy at the Justice Department, who was Trump's personal attorney, defended him in his criminal trial last year in New York City. And now he's number 3 at the Justice Department. And he is meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell in prison to see if she can offer additional information.
Right. What is that? And then Trump said, I can pardon her anytime. And we're like, yes, that is. But why are you bringing this up? It's so weird.
No. Why would you pardon? No one's disputing you have the power to do so. Why would you pardon a woman who is convicted of sex trafficking?
Like, what? No, it's crazy.
It is concerning. And also, who is going to believe a word out of the woman's mouth who essentially had a life sentence in jail and is now like, maybe get out of jail free card, right? But like,
and
it's
also
depending on her talking, which when she did testify, it was found to be not credible, and she has subsequently refused to talk over and over again, including, as is her right, at her own trial.
Exactly. It's kind of one of those things. It's like, I'm not guilty because I paid everyone off. See, and it's just like,
right. But to me, it's a very dark turn in terms of the use of our justice system, where even people who were involved in this abhorrent, immoral behavior,
and
really Trump is willing to do whatever he needs to do to change the subject.
And yes, including.
Okay. So let's talk about Obama for a second, because then I want to shift to Jerome Powell and what happened yesterday.
Right, because that was crazy too.
Okay. Oh. So Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence.
The worst.
Okay.
I think she dyes her hair to have that perfect gray streak, though, by the way, just as an aside.
Listen.
Like, she's trying to look like Rogue from X-Men.
Doesn't share her secrets, okay? Not sharing her secrets. But here's the thing about Tulsi. They put out intelligence that is basically rehashed, repackaged. Nothing's new in there. And by the way, it has nothing to do.
Not a thing.
Right. They assert it says things it doesn't say about the Russians, having the capacity to change votes, which nobody ever asserted. Their own report contradicts a bipartisan Senate report that was chaired by Marco Rubio, now the Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, U.S. aid administrator, and
whatever Trump tells him to be.
Lead dog catcher, the national dog catcher. I don't know. Marco's doing whatever he needs to do. He's doing what he needs to do. But so they trot this out, then make a criminal referral to DOJ. Okay. But I thought Trump got immunity last summer. So this is all complicated, right? Trump got immunity for himself from the Supreme Court and all presidents and official acts. And now they're making criminal referrals on the previous president, right? Which makes no sense. But the point is, it's not supposed to. It was red meat so that the right-wing media had something else to talk about.
And you know what? It did not. They're like, oh yeah, great, thanks.
Cool. Well, it's like, cool. Also, release the Epstein files.
Exactly. It's
Right?
like, back to the subject.
Yeah. But
It was amazing, actually, how quickly they were like, "Meh." It's also stupid.
well, I'll talk about stupid for a second because yesterday, and Trump has been trying to get rid of Jerome Powell, who is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, for months. And Powell has been resistant to it. Every time Trump has walked up to the line, Wall Street kind of freaks out because they're worried
Yes.
about the independence of the Fed. They're worried about the politicizing our monetary policy to serve politicians,
Stuff.
and
Right.
therefore, like, really
They
screwing up
should.
the economy.
Because you
Right,
can manipulate it to have short-term gains
Correct.
and short-term effects to help someone in a current situation, which is why
Correct.
you can't do that. It has to
Correct.
be.
But he's been trying to get rid of him because he's upset that Powell hasn't cut interest rates, which in part he hasn't because of tariffs.
Right.
So the Fed already would have done it had Trump not.
They were planning to.
Correct. It was on the board, and now the things have become just a little less clear. So they have now latched on to this idea that the Fed is getting, a makeover, the building itself.
It is getting a
renovation.
makeover. It ain't cheap. I mean, the
It is
numbers.
marble, an asbestos removal. And so now they are trying to say there are major cost overruns and mismanagement, and that's bad.
Because that's what Jerome Powell's worried about, is like
Correct.
managing the renovations.
But the thing about it is, so Trump himself shows up at the Fed yesterday. And
y'all.
Shows up at the Fed, which was not scheduled, I don't think. There were other members of the administration who were, but not Trump himself. He shows up, they're in hard hats, and then he tries to pull. It was like classic ambush, right? Because he knows the news media is there.
Right.
So he's like, oh, I've noticed your cost overruns. It was supposed to be 2.7 billion, but now it's 3.1. Oh, I have this. I have this paper right here. Oh, it shows all of the cost overruns here. And Powell looks confused, right? And looks at it and says, oh no, you included this other building that's not part of this renovation. And Trump says, well, but it's still part of the project and you're still building. And he's like, no, we finished that 5 years ago. We finished it 5 years ago. And Trump said, well, it's still part of the project. So, we're going to look into that. And the thing about it was, as soon as I saw it, it was jaw dropping because Powell fact checked him in real time. But the other piece was that I was like, oh, this is how this was going to be the storyline to move off of Epstein for the weekend and to build up support to get rid of Powell. And this was going to be the ambush moment that did it, because like, oh my God, Trump caught him,
it's so amateur hour though.
Yeah.
It was so good. But it was so, we are in sort of we are through the looking glass in all of this. Cause you're like, what is happening? And like, and the weird thing about Trump, and he is so unpredictable to me, is that he sits there and says, I've never seen someone who says they're so above it all who gets into the shit more than him. Like, he dives in head first into the crappiest piece of crap and the lowest of the low, and you're just kind of like, you don't have anything else to do but this. And that would be fine if you said that about me, for example, but you're kind of the president of the United States. This cannot be, and it's just, he is the most petty, low, small individual with his small hands, right? That's why he's always in the muck, right? He's always in the muck because he is that small and petty.
But he's also not interested in actually governing.
Right. Oh, exactly. I mean, absolutely. Like, the work is irrelevant, not important. Grievances and trying to get in over someone or trying to screw over someone is high priority. Which, look, I am so petty. I love being
Right.
petty,
I mean,
but
that's
but it's just like, but I wouldn't do that at the expense of, like, doing what I'm supposed to be doing, when, like, it is just it was jaw dropping in its just one ineptitude. It was completely inept. It was like, by the way, if I'm gonna go after someone, I'm a land the punch. And
Yep.
it just was like he was flailing. That
Yep.
was the thing. He just, like,
Well,
is
'cause I
all
don't
over.
think he expected to be fact checked in real time.
Yeah, because he does do that all the time, right? He just tries to, like, bully people over and no one says anything. Which, by the way, is probably what happens with certainly what happens with all these people, because they don't have they're sort of gutless and spineless, and they're just sort of like, yes, Master Trump.
Well,
So
look,
he used to that.
he wasn't really on camera, but Tim Scott, who actually oversees is the committee chair who oversees the Fed,
Forgot about
was there, and like the camera sort of cut to him, and Trump looked at
and he
Tim
was like,
Scott to affirm the number, and Tim Scott's like, yeah, it was about 3.1, 3.2 billion, meaning billion. And it was like they have all completely abdicated any responsibility or authority for their
Yep.
work. I want to move to, there's a couple of other really big potential, because everyone talks about Epstein all the time and all this other authoritarian stuff Trump is doing, but there's also real things his administration's doing that's going to impact all of us and hurt us. So the two things that caught my eye this week on that front: number one, the Labor Department, they announced that their intention to either totally get rid of, rescind, or to otherwise change regulations, more than 60 workplace regulations, more than 60. Okay. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of regulations. But these are rules that impact the safety of construction workers, of mine workers whose workplace is mine, so mine safety, and also, and this was the thing that got me, home healthcare workers. Okay, so they are proposing this rule, or it's actually getting rid of a rule from when Obama was president, that would allow home healthcare workers to be paid less than the current federal minimum wage, which is $7.25 an hour, and also to block overtime for these workers, right? Think about, I mean, these folks are taking care of our parents, our grandparents.
It's the hardest work.
It is very hard work. And they are trying to take us back to rules that were in place in 1975.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's all related. It's all, home healthcare workers, mine workers, construction. These folks
cared about the working class. I guess not,
because it's the way people make money is to squeeze the little guy.
Yeah.
Right, and that's just an example, which has always been one of those hard things where Trump's lip service to things, and I get why people just sort of bought into it, because he's sort of railing against, this is what we talked about, he's railing against systems and establishment, but he is fundamentally a part of that system. And so what is actually happening in reality is exactly what that system that he railed against and that people voted against wants. Let's get rid of these regulations because it costs money. It hurts the bottom line.
Yes.
So, you don't want to protect people because you don't want to be at fault if something happens. You don't want to pay for it. You want people to just do those things. Same sort of thing. It's removing these protections for workers, which then ultimately benefits the bottom line for the corporations and the companies that make money off of them, right? Like, people talk about these regulations as if they're like, yes, they're there and they can be, there's a ton of them, like you said, 60 plus in this example, but they're there to protect people's interests above sort of the big interests of the corporation or the large companies. But that's what Trump has always worked for. Like, he talks a certain game, and then all these things that have been implemented, we've talked about it, whether it's the big beautiful bill and cutting healthcare for rural areas. All these people who thought they were getting something, who voted for him because they needed a change in the system. And I agree with them. There needs to be a change in the system. But in reality, the policies and the things that are being implemented are against the interests of all these individuals.
Absolutely. You know, there was an EO that came out, executive order that came out early in the administration, and I actually think it's a really good idea, where if you are going to propose any new regulation, you have to get rid of, actually they said 10-1. So that's maybe a lot, but like for every new regulation, you need to get rid of 10.
Because 10's the right number.
The ratio. Like, that's a good idea. It is a good idea to constantly be looking at regulations that maybe were put on the books.
The world changes.
40 years ago, the world changes. And you have to take a look at these things. I understand why people get frustrated. I understand why businesses get frustrated by it. But that's not what this is.
No.
What this is removing any guardrails on the managers and the people who control what you get paid. Right.
So it's like you get paid less, you're less protected, and doesn't mean there's not money still. The same money still flowing in, and those things, those protections, that they go somewhere, right? You're basically removing these impediments to profits for the people who are in charge.
Although this is interesting because, and I literally just thought of this as you were talking, that, you know, Medicaid covers something like 2/3 of nursing home care in this country. And Medicaid, of course, is going to be cut significantly as part of this new law that Trump insisted to get passed and is being signed. And so the money's got to come from somewhere. And so if you're paying the workers less, that's one way to make up for the fact that less money is coming into the system because you removed it, right?
So it's like, hey guys, don't worry, I'm taking care of you.
Absolutely. The other major rule I wanted to propose, because the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, apparently is no longer cares about protecting the environment, even though that's kind of their job. But they're trying to repeal the 2009 endangerment finding, is the technical term, that allowed the federal government to regulate greenhouse gases. Okay. So without that, you're going to see, you know, car emissions, power plant pollution, and other things will not be able to be regulated if they take that away. And we are already in a situation where so far we've had 3,600 declarations for flash floods, or flash flood warnings, I should say, this year. In a typical year, there's 4,000. It's July, right?
Yeah.
And you're already almost there. We've seen tremendous natural disasters with devastating consequences for communities, and also now an incompetent FEMA that either doesn't know how to or doesn't care to help people who are getting caught up in these disasters, right? And now you're going to make the meta environment worse because you're going to take away the government's ability to create standards that slow the progression of climate change.
Well, I mean, climate change, I've always thought about this. I actually believe that these folks believe there's climate. It doesn't matter. They don't care. It's not about climate change. It's about what folks prioritize. And for them, they're prioritizing sort of reducing these standards so that people can sort of do whatever they want and make the money that they want. And that's the only thing that ultimately matters, right? And I think that's what I think we do a disservice when we say, hey, you know, they don't believe. It doesn't matter what they believe. What they do, whether they believe in climate change or not, what they do believe in clearly is reducing whatever impediments there are to maximizing profits, right? That's the bottom line. So the argument about whether someone believes in climate change is I think silly in that sense, right? Because it's like, that's not the point. Whether they believe in it or not doesn't matter. It's what they're prioritizing, right? And so the idea, these flash floods and these, out here in California, not in California right now, I'm in Oregon, but there are fires here too. These are happening at much greater frequency. Everyone who lives it is experiencing things that feel very different than they were 5-10 years ago. I think people recognize that, but no FEMA, no regulations, no worry about all these things that we were making great progress in as sort of a global community
Well,
for a
and
long time.
that's the other thing I just want to bring up, because now we're seeing the Trump administration canceled $4 billion for high-speed rail in California.
Which would be so good.
I mean, and that's been fraught, and it's been challenging, that project in general. But you also have seen $22 billion overall in clean energy projects have been canceled or downsized or delayed, right? This year alone. Now, this is trying to unroll the Biden, the Biden policies. Here's the challenge. In addition to all the climate stuff we just talked about and helping take America into a clean energy future, those projects all meant local construction jobs,
OBS,
and building jobs, and permanent jobs in many cases for these communities who wanted them. So a lot of battery factories canceled. Guess what happens after you build the battery factory? You make batteries in the factory, and then you sell the batteries.
Again, we talk about sort of petty, and so it is. If they were called anything other than clean energy jobs, right? If that's what's so crazy about it, because they're just batteries. Like, if you didn't, but they're batteries sort of to move us off of reliance on different things. But they're in the Biden bill called clean energy projects, clean energy jobs, clean energy sort of incentives. But who cares? They're just jobs, and good jobs, and useful jobs. And people not
anymore.
No, they're gone. And by the way, some of them were midstream. Like, basically some of these things that are being canceled aren't things that just haven't started. They're things that are midstream, and you just basically waste whatever's already been done to build these different factories, build these the infrastructure to have and house these jobs. And so we talk about it. It's the ultimate in petty, because it doesn't matter that it's actually a waste. It is wasteful. They just want to shut it down.
They want to shut it down because they want to return to a fossil fuel dominant place that literally the rest of the world is moving on from. This is actually going to put us at a competitive disadvantage long term, to say nothing.
Do you think it's
the ways in which it's?
I just thought it was petty. I didn't think it was like anything about some vision of the world.
That's because you're petty. Petty or not petty. You know what? That can be like a side. We should have a petty or not petty segment at some point. And I think that would be really interesting, and we should really actually explore it. Petty or not petty with Larry Quinn. Or like petty and I'm loving it, or like petty for petty's sake is not the same.
Yeah, right? Well,
I don't know.
I mean, as you know, I love petty, and I love foul and nasty things. So, like, I mean, that's how I live.
That's how you live. Okay. Last thing I do want to touch on before we go is the South Park return of South Park.
Petty.
I mean, but petty is their brand.
Yes, exactly. This is why it's so good.
Petty with a point. I think they're
petty with a point. That's the best kind.
But so Paramount cancels, CBS cancels Stephen Colbert last week because they need to button it up before the FCC approves the merger. Trump gloats about it.
Right.
Then Paramount approves the merger. Literally I think it was the same day.
It is absurd. The timeline is.
South Park drops an episode that just, I mean, I've only seen parts of it. Have you seen the whole episode?
No, I've only seen parts of it. And yes.
It's vicious.
Right. Totally expected and great.
Yes. And so Trump is now complaining about that, but it's like the South Park boys, they don't care.
They don't give a
they don't care. And so they're going to say whatever they want to say. And they are equal opportunity
Yeah,
insulted.
no one is
They
safe.
go after- No one is safe with those guys. But it was
It was really good, and yes, it's again this crossover of pop culture and politics is happening consistently for any number of different reasons, possibly because there's a reality TV personality in the White House, but it it's really funny because it's like then the response from the White House is also petty, where you're like, oh, you're not important anymore, you're outdated, no one cares about you, except why are you talking about it?
Well, you know what's interesting? The moment when Trump was most nervous last summer during the presidential campaign is when Kamala became the Democratic nominee, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
sure, like one, he'd been spending, the whole campaign was built around attacking Joe Biden. That is
Right.
true. But as it was reported, the thing that actually made him most nervous was Joe Biden was incapable of getting anybody's attention for anything. And Trump understood that the attention was what mattered. And for those 2 or 3 weeks, no one was paying attention to him at all. They were only paying attention to Kamala. And that is the currency that our culture kind of like lives in right now. And if you are not being paid attention to, you're irrelevant.
Yeah.
And that's what he understood. And it's why he
Right.
was so upset.
The attention
And that's what
economy
the
is
South
real.
Park does. Oh my God. It is
I
our
mean,
world.
look, we've been talking about just in general our work and our working things, and where it's on our side where we fail consistently is forgetting that attention matters. Like no one, you can say all that you want, but if no one's paying attention to you, it doesn't matter. It's a tree in the forest.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Larry, my drink is about done here.
I'm done.
And wow, you did well. I hope you have a great weekend. And next time, hopefully, I'll catch you in your native California.
We will mix the drink next week. Well, I will at least.
Yeah, no, it's happening.
Okay.
Got to kick off August the right way. Take care.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.